Welcome back to the Joke Zero podcast, a podcast where we talk about all things indie filmmaking. And we are focusing this season on Joke Zero's first feature film, Plan B, which is out right now wherever you buy or rent movies on Amazon, on Apple, Fandango's homepage. Now you can stream movies. So you can check that out. It's got a great cast. And we're really excited because we're talking to everybody involved in the movie, behind the camera, in front of the camera. And I think we have one of our most interesting episodes today. I'm very excited to speak to the iconic Bill Berloni, who is an animal trainer who has the most extensive resume I've ever seen. I was really excited about it. So congrats on all of your work. But Bill, welcome to the podcast. How are you?
I'm great. Thank you for having me.
Thanks for being here. So I gotta know, I mean, I've never worked personally with an animal trainer. I have to know how you got started in this business because you seem to be the go-to, at least on the East Coast. You've done a lot of work, it seems like, between theater and film and TV. So how'd you get started in this industry?
I got started when I was 19 years old and I wanted to be an actor. And I live here in Connecticut. And I started apprenticing at a theater called the Goodspeed Opera House, which was dedicated to the American musical. They did new musicals, revivals. The summer of 76, they decided to do the musical Annie. It was the world premiere. There was a dog in it. And they couldn't afford a New York dog trainer. And all the carpenters, all the grips said, we're going to quit if we have to do the dog. So they needed a sucker. So the producer called me in his office and offered me a part in one of the plays and my union card if I would find and train this dog for free. And of course, I said yes.
Wow.
Yeah. And he gave me $35 to buy the dog and feed it all summer. So I heard there was cheap animals at the animal shelter. I went looking for Sandy in animal shelters and found the original Sandy at the Connecticut Humane Society.
Oh my God.
Trained him as I had my own because I grew up as an only child on a farm and my animals are my friends, not my property. And the show actually bombed. And I then moved to New York City, enrolled at NYU's acting group, took Sandy with me. And then 6 months later, famed producer Mike Nichols decided to do it for Broadway, asked me if I wanted to participate. And I thought, any way to work with Mike Nichols, I'm in. And the show did open on Broadway and became a very big success. And I became a famous animal trainer because the first time an animal had ever played a part in a live theatrical event. So I've been working on Broadway now for close to 45 years. I've done 27 Broadway shows. And that type of training is a lot different than film training. It's a little more complicated.
I'm sure. Yeah.
But at the same time, movies, TV shows that were being filmed here on the East Coast would call occasionally and ask if I would participate. And, that's how I got started, really.
That's an amazing story. You, first of all, I feel like so many people, try to do regional theater or move to New York City. You never hear someone offer them a role that will get you your like equity card to get into the union. And you were like, I just have to train a dog and make a best friend for life. That sounds, that sounds great. Wait, was the dog named Sandy? Did you name the dog Sandy?
The original Sandy we did, yes.
Oh, I love that. And how long did you work with that dog or own that dog?
He lived to 16 years old, so I had him about 15 years. And, he retired when he was around 12. But yeah, he did the show for 8 years on Broadway and then toured the country. And certainly one of my favorites.
That's amazing. And I looked up as soon as I heard we were interviewing you, I definitely looked up to say, did you do Legally Blonde? Because I was a huge fan of Legally Blonde, and that's another big dog show and movie. How was that experience?
Actually, it's one of my favorite shows to have done.
Really?
The director and originator his name is Jerry Mitchell, and he's a very famous choreographer director. And the first day of rehearsal, he said, "Kids, it's Legally Blonde. It's not War and Peace. It's going to be fast, furious, and fun." And it was. It was just a very fun show to work with, great people. And we had a Chihuahua and a Bulldog. So two very different types of dogs.
I love that. I'm curious when, a show calls for a certain breed or anything, like how do you find your animals? How do you cast them?
Currently, what I've been doing is if it's a Broadway show, the training is usually at least a year of training before we start. So my wife and I will adopt the animals and do all the prep work up front. Currently, we have 22 dogs that are available to work in all sorts of things. But we now represent other people. We audition people who have humanely trained animals. That's the key, humanely trained. And then we rep them. We'll get a job for an orange tabby cat, and we'll call our cat person, and we go supervise the job with them and help it all happen. So for the film and TV stuff, we use a lot of other people's pets, or trained animals.
That's amazing. And for Broadway shows, do you have people who work under you now? Like if there's a show that's happening and they need a certain dog and they call you and you're, I don't know, working on another project or something, do you have people you've trained to train the animals or take care of the animals now?
Actually, not. My gift, if I have a gift, is to I understand animal nature, but I also understand the needs and artistic drive of the production, and I somehow figure out a way to make those two happen. And once you do, the show runs automatically, and that's usually when I put my people in, and then I go on to the next project, figure out how to do that one.
That's amazing.
We have a lot of people who either whether it's running a series for us or a Broadway show, I have like 5 or 6 people who I consider my family because they take my kids and they go, when they leave home.
Yeah, of course. Their family. That's amazing. What is the training like for, say a movie role versus a show? I know you said it's about a year, but when you don't have the actual stage or the audience or, the cameras in front of you, how do you go about training them? You don't have to give away your biggest secrets, or not.
It's a great question, and it goes to the basis of the way I think. People think you can train an animal to do anything, which is sort of this attitude of dominance, like you're my animal, I'm going to force you to do something. We don't do it with each other, but we feel like the animal kingdom is ours to boss around. I don't feel that way. And in the same way that each person is good at something, you can't take someone who is shy and put them on stage. You can't take somebody who can't do math and put them, So first thing we do is we find these animals who can deal with stress, are non-aggressive, and we feel could handle this chaotic life. Because if they can't, you can't teach that to someone. So once we find the animal with the right temperament, we train them to do behaviors just like you would in your living room, except most people stop at their living room. You teach your dog to roll over, it's great, but then you go in the kitchen and ask it to roll over and it doesn't. So with us, it becomes this pattern of we're going to do it in the living room. We're going to do it in every room in the house. Then we're going to do it somewhere else. And we teach them to start listening everywhere. We desensitize them to the industry. So for example, the theater dogs, I will take them to a show that's already running, expose them backstage to the audience, the applause, and slowly get them used to it as opposed to just throwing them in. Same thing with the film work. We take a broom and wave it over their head to sort of indicate the sound boom. We also bring them on sets and let them see those big one-eyed monsters that are following them around so that they get accustomed to it before we ever expose them to it.
That's incredible.
But the thing about theater, which is different than film, in film, I can be behind the camera. I can be controlling the animal, and because of the camera angles and stuff, it'll look like it's interacting with people. On stage, we take them to the next level. We have to train the actors to be trainers. Because if you think about it, Sandy can't come on and look off stage and get the command and then do it. These dogs have to be so well-rounded that they not only love me and listen to me, they have to listen to someone else. And that's usually the biggest difference between theater and film. We get 8 weeks of rehearsal to work with the actors. Whereas on film, you show up the day, prep it, shoot it. So there isn't that sort of time to set up that relationship.
Interesting. I'm curious, have you ever had any crazy experiences like live on stage where an animal just went rogue or wanted to be the star of the show or anything? I mean,
actually not. I mean, the animals are much more.
I'm knocking on wood when you said that. I just
No,
want
no,
you to know.
no, no, no. They're actually much better than the humans. No dog comes in hungover. No dog comes over having just broken up a relationship.
It's so true.
And animals like patterns because they don't have cognitive thought process. When you think of a show, it's the same thing every night. So they like the pattern until something is off. If someone's in the wrong place, they don't know what to do. And that's when they sort of go, wait, Bill, and they walk off stage because they don't know they can't figure out what to do next. They can't cover for the human errors.
Right. Or if it's like a standby or an understudy, I would imagine maybe they're a little like, wait, this isn't.
A little, yeah. When it seems like the animal is not listening, it's because somebody else is not done their job and they don't know what to do.
It's funny when you said that before. You probably know this, but Kimpton hotels, which don't sponsor us yet, but I love them because they'll take any animal. You can, I don't know if you guys know that you can stay at any Kimpton hotel. They're like, as long as it can walk through our doors, it's fine. They said the only things that have ever ruined our hotel rooms are humans. All of the animals who've stayed here have really been much better behaved than like, a drunk person coming in at night and trashing their hotel room. So,
Sorry to interrupt, but I actually worked at Kimpton Hotel throughout college.
really?
And we had so many dogs there. It really is like the primary hotel chain for dog lovers because they can just bring their dog in, roam the lobby, stay in the room. The hotel I was at even had a service where the hotel staff could go take the dog out on a walk during the day while the hotel guest was at work or doing anything.
That's funny. I stayed at the one in Barcelona last week and they told me a llama stayed there recently. And I was like, awesome. I wanted to ask about some of the projects you've worked on because you've done Greatest Showman. I saw you did in Just Like That, which I'm a huge fan of. What are some of your favorite projects that you've gotten to work on? Because I feel like you've worked with so many cool people at this point in your career. What stands out for you on the film and TV side?
Being an East Coast trainer, nobody's going to fly me out to the West Coast and put me up and pay per diem when there's so many trainers out there. But here on the East Coast, the indie market has been so creative and so wonderful. I worked on a film with Jim Jarmusch. It was called Patterson. And Adam Driver played this bus driver whose girlfriend had a dog that didn't like him. So to work with a talent like Jim Jarmusch, I worked with Mike Nichols on a film. Gosh, and then the series And Just Like That, we just wrapped the season of Only Murders in the Building.
Oh, fun.
Being on set with Steve Martin and those guys was just hilarious, and they were all very nice. The experiences, again, on the New York indie market, it's a lot different than Hollywood, which is all about the money.
But that's cool. I feel like you've gotten probably some amazing projects because you are the go-to on the East Coast for that market, which is like, someone in LA could be like, I've always wanted to work with Steve Martin, but they're not going to fly me to New York to work on this production. So,
and now filmmakers are calling me, like, I just did the last Ethan Coen movie. We trained a Chihuahua for it. And you get a call. Hi, I'm doing this movie. We need a Chihuahua. I have a Chihuahua from Legally Blonde. And they said, well, it's Ethan Coen. I said, well, I'd like to speak to him. And they were like, what? I said, I need to speak with the director to know what he wants. And the next thing I knew, I had a Zoom call with him and his wife, lovely people, and had no idea about animals. And we had this wonderful conversation. And he gave me his ideas, and I would send him videotape of the dog doing it. And it was a marvelous experience. And Martin Scorsese, he did a Super Bowl commercial last year, and he needed a dog to bark on a pickup truck. They didn't ask how much. They just said, Bill, we want you. And we went, got it in 2 takes. And he said, that's amazing. So there's a lot of those sort of memories.
do some of your animals that you've had, like you said, I have a Chihuahua from Legally Blonde, like, do they work multiple Legally Blondes? If there's a new tour or if a regional theater's doing it or something, like they get typecast, the animals.
Well, the 3 most popular shows that I've done have been Annie, Legally Blonde, and The Wizard of Oz. So those shows are done all over the theater, all over the world, actually. And we will send our dogs out to do productions like that.
That's really cool. I love that. Well, how did you get involved with Plan B? We've got Cat Sajak. Is that your cat in the movie?
Yeah. That's my cat, personal cat. Yes. My daughter went to school with Eric. And so I knew of Eric's film aspirations from when he was going to Connecticut College. And my daughter actually did some work for him, some voiceover. So it was through that Eric recommended me to Brandon. And, I said, of course I'd help.
My experience there, which is funny you brought that up. So originally, I didn't realize that I needed an animal trainer. And I was just looking at local shelters. And I was actually even thinking of adopting a cat. But I had asked the shelter if I could just borrow one of the cats for a day or two to film a movie. And they thought that it was a really cool idea and were super into it. And then Eric, who worked on our crew, had said to me, what are you planning to do for the cat? And I said, I have a cat that I found at the shelter that I'm going to use. And he's like, that's a that's a big mistake. Don't do that. And he then introduced me to Bill over here, and it was great. Bill brought over Gabby the cat, who plays Cat Sajak in the movie, and was really great to work with.
That's cool. And I love that. And it's very interesting because I feel like you probably hear this, Bill, a lot when people are like, I need an animal in, something, and they just think any animal can just be on camera and, they'll handle it. They'll do a fine job, and then turn on all the lights and the people and everything. And it's like, it's scary for a human, let alone a small animal.
Right. Would you do that with an actor? Would you just take somebody who's never had no experience, put them there? Would you do that with a DP? Would you take, hey, will you run the camera for us? I mean, and it's so interesting that everybody specialized in what they're doing, but people think animals, just bring them in, they'll do it. And that's one of the best stories, and the most frustrating ones are it'll take a crew half a day to set up the set, the lights, the sound, camera moves, everything. 5 hours I'm sitting there. They're ready to go. Bring the animal in. Can I run it once? No, we have to shoot. And I sit there and I go, okay, all you humans with cognitive thought process needed 5 hours to do this. And you expect the creature with no cognitive thought process to come in and do it on the first time. I've actually said that a number of times to people that frustrated me, but we have to go. And ultimately the animal doesn't do what it wants. And then we have to stop and they go, what's wrong? I said, can we rehearse it, please? Again, you understand scheduling and we have to keep moving, but the animals, again, they need a little time to get acclimated to be able to do what they need to do.
Absolutely. I'm curious how we've talked a lot about like dogs and cats, but you've obviously worked with more exotic animals, that projects have called for. I saw that you worked with Beyoncé once with a snake.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
How was that? I have to ask about that because I'm like, that's fascinating to me.
That was one of those, we need a boa, but we can't tell you why.
We need a boa, and here's the fake name we're gonna give you.
Right. Here's the address. It's just got to be on someone's neck. I'm like, okay. Again, I was just a kid who was an actor who trained a dog because I had dogs. And I realized very early on that one of the biggest forms of animal abuse is ignorance. One of the biggest forms of animal abuse is ignorance. And I didn't feel like I was going to start going out and getting snakes and different animals just to work them because I didn't know anything about them. So from the beginning, I would hire experts with those animals. So whether it's an entomologist or whether it's a bird person or a parrot person or a horse person, I would rather hire an expert, split the fee with them, go and supervise the job. So I know that the animal is being handled by people who understand what the needs are. So yeah, I had a snake guy. We had a cooler. We showed up on set and it was Beyoncé, and you open the cooler, draped it around her neck. So that was actually cool. Yeah. But I don't do, we don't do exotic animals. We'll do insects, reptiles, farm animals, pigeons, but we don't do anything that you can't find on a farm or in a pet shop.
Did you do the Home Alone movies? Don't you love that my brain goes there with pigeons?
No, but I did do Sesame Street, Bernice the pigeon.
Awesome.
I've done Sesame Street for over 30 years, and Bert and Ernie have a pigeon named Bernice. So in that case, the bird just has to sit with the puppet. So we get these young birds and we hand tame them, put them on stuffed animals until the point where they hang out and eat their food. So yeah.
That's awesome. Do you have a favorite animal? Like, am I allowed to ask that? That's like asking you have a favorite child, but I would ask someone that as well, I think. Do you have a favorite animal? Like, are you more of a dog or a cat, or it doesn't matter to you?
I'm a dog. I mean, I think I'm drawn to wolves. So I think in another life I was a wolf, which is why I like canines.
I love this.
Because I think of all the species of animals outside of primates, dogs try to communicate with us the most. And I can look into the eyes of my dogs and see all of nature. I could see the world. I could see another species looking at this experience. And that's exciting to me. Cats, they don't want to look at you. They run the other way.
I always say that my friends who are cat people who have cats are animal lovers, and they seem to love all animals. And I think my, dog people I know mostly just like dogs. They're like, no, I don't want any other animal in my life.
I mean, my mom was a cat person. So we've got 22 dogs and 3 cats and a macaw. My wife was an actress, and I think she married me so that she could have all the animals she's ever wanted.
It works.
Yeah, and she gets pigs. I mean, we have a lot of fun animals. So
that's amazing. How do you do you get the job first, or are you like, hey, we should get some pigs? You never know. Maybe this is the year of, a film is going to need a pig or something, or is it based on the job usually, or the demand of a project?
This business, you can't predict anything. You can't predict any trends.
I know, but you have the farm.
We do. But again, it's labor intensive. We did a reality show for Discovery Channel, and it looked like it was fun, but no, it's 24/7 animal care. Somebody's throwing up, somebody's getting sick, somebody's barking all the time, somebody's meowing, cleaning litter boxes. I mean, so we try to keep the animals we keep are being worked. We don't just warehouse them. And as cute as an animal is, if I don't have a job for it, I'll find it at home with someone else.
That's nice. Yeah, tell us a little bit about From Wags to Riches. That was your show, right? That you did for Discovery Channel.
Discovery was starting a family channel. They wanted to rival ABC Family. And so they were looking for children's programming, and animals sell. And I remember they came to us, and I was really flattered, actually, more because there are a number of great animal trainers. But have you ever seen the inside of their home or their facility? Did you ever see where Lassie lived? Because most of the people who do that, it's not very kind to animals. The press, we do. We got nothing to hide. Sure, come to our house. And so we were sort of role models for humane treatment of animals and all that sort of stuff. And it was children's programming. The guys are telling us that, most reality shows, they start off with a case of vodka. With our show, Bill comes home and finds ducks in the bathtub. Oh my God, what are ducks doing?
They're like, Bill, can you get one of those ducks to take a shit on the floor now? So we need some drama in this episode.
That's exactly what they did. And I went, look, there's poop all over the floor. So no, I was more proud of the fact that I could display my home and have nothing to hide and show people that they're all well taken care of.
That's amazing. Would you do reality again? Would you do another show with your animals?
It was great being at home and having the crew come here. I didn't have to go anywhere and get up at 4 in the morning to get in for a 7 a.m. call. So that was the best part of it. So yeah, I would actually do another reality show.
Okay. I love that. And you said, is your family, you have kids, is everybody involved in the industry in some way or another?
I have one child, daughter. She's 25 now. And when asked if she was going to take over the business, she was like, "Are you crazy? You and mom work way too hard. No, thank you." So she went into childcare. Yeah, it's just my wife and I. And again, our trainers who work with us.
That's great. Well, this was so much fun talking to you. Brandon, is there anything else that you wanted to ask Bill?
Yeah, I had one question for you, Bill. So I know you mentioned about the farm and farm animals that you have. So I noticed you worked on The Witch, and it seemed like you may have trained the goat in that movie. As a big fan of that movie, and I'm mainly a comedy person, but I do like a horror movie here and there. Like, what was it like working with that goat?
That's actually a funny story because as an indie, it was actually shot in Seattle, and the exterior shots were of the white goat, but they couldn't get it to do anything. So I get this call, Bill, we're doing this film called The Witch, and we're going to go into a studio and do some stuff against green screen. Can you bring, a goat, a white goat, and a rabbit? And I was like, sure. So we actually did all that stuff on a green screen. The majority of the goat work was done here in New York. And I wanted to say this earlier. It's like, I love working with young filmmakers or on new projects. It's like, it helps me teach the next generation on how to work with animals. So at the time I was like, yeah, it's low budget. Okay, this will be fun. And we had a good day. But now it's like this cult classic, and people will pick out that film out of my resume and go, oh my God, you did the goat. We did the rabbit too. The rabbit that ran away, he was running around on a set. So I'm the only trainer that's on the list at NYU Graduate Film School and Columbia Film School, when we have to do your film, for your master's degree, because I will work with young filmmakers for very little money because I want to pass it on. I want to pass it forward. So
that's really cool.
Yeah. And thanks for working with me.
Yeah. And for everyone listening, like, it never hurts to ask because, I feel like someone would see your resume and see the amazing directors you've worked with and everything and be like, oh, I don't know if they would work on my smaller film. But it's really nice to know that, like, you still have a passion for the industry and you love what you do. And it shows. It's really cool.
Well, thank you. I mean, I'm 68 years old and most of my friends have retired. And when you love what you do, that's not even like a thought in my mind at this point, so I feel blessed and fortunate. And, again, thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. What are you working on? Is there anything you want to plug or talk about that you're working on right now that you're excited about?
Well, we're in the 3rd season of Just Like That, and that's going to film for a good 8 months, 9 months. There's a new Broadway show called Left on 10th, which is written by Delia Ephron, who is Nora Ephron's sister.
Cool.
She used to work with Nora and help her write the screenplays. So she's a writer, and it's her life story about later in life when her sister dies and she has a bout with cancer. So it's this beautiful play about survival, and she has a dog. And so we're training the dog character again, going back to my Broadway roots, we have a big premiere coming up of a film called The Friend, and it just got accepted into the Toronto Film Festival in the Spotlight series. So I'm going to be going to Toronto and walking the red carpet. And it's a story stars Naomi Watts.
That's amazing.
The Friend is a Great Dane, and you find out that Naomi is the ex-lover of Bill Murray's character who's in the play. He has a Great Dane. He passes away, and she inherits the dog. And here are these two creatures grieving over the loss of the man they loved, and they actually heal each other, and she ends up keeping the dog. I mean, it's a beautiful love story, and so I'm excited. I'm hoping audiences will see the human-animal bond presented in a different way in a film.
That's amazing. I'm excited. The Friend, right?
The Friend, yep. Another indie film. So you guys keep plugging away.
There you go. Well, Bill, it was awesome to chat with you. Can people find you online on Instagram, or are you everywhere?
Yeah, it's a funny enough name that you could find me. Berloni. I mean, my website's Theatrical Animals. We're Berloni Theatrical Animals on Instagram and Facebook. And I think we just started a Twitter account. So yeah.
Awesome. Thanks for joining us on the pod. And everyone check out Plan B online wherever you rent or buy movies.